Hi guys, in this video we're going to build a full-ish game using FXGL as a result of this vote that or poll that I created. So there is this thing called Community tab. I don't know if it's a new feature, but it's there now, and it allows me to create polls, which is a really useful tool or way to get kind of viewers' opinion on what the next video should be. And I think the workflow on this channel will continue to be of this format. So I'll create a poll and add a few things in there, a few topics that you might be interested in. And if you are, then just click on one of those polls to say that you want to see more of that video. And in the next video, it will have the type based on number of people voted. So we can see that full JavaFX game tutorial using FXGL is the top one, and the JavaFX software tutorial is the runner-up. So I'm going to do two of those for the next two videos, or well, this one's on FXGL and the other one will be on software. Then I'm going to I'll delete this poll and add a new one with new topics so that the poll is kind of fair to everyone. So it's not the same topic that constantly occurs and these votes. Right, so that's that. And yeah, if you are interested in one of these topics, then do vote, and I'll continue uploading new polls as soon as videos are uploaded. I think you just need to go to this channel and click Community tab. Also, I'm now recording at 60 frames per second. Let me know if that's better or not, and we can go from there. Because for games, as some people have suggested, animations are, well, they will be smoother in 60 FPS, at 60 FPS. Right. So yeah, I've got this idea for a game, which is kind of reverse Pong, where you have, instead of getting your kind of paddle to hit the ball, the idea is to avoid being hit by the ball. Since the game of Pong is simple, and I want to do something simple, but I already done Pong, and I already done the breakout type game as well. So this is kind of Pong, but in reverse. And that's what we're doing. I also got the assets. These are three things that I'm going to be using. So the ball, I'm going to have the player as the bird, with a twist that there will be 4 birds, and all of them are controlled using the single input from the player. And I'll just make the other 3 birds move in a different direction than the one the user pressed. So that's kind of reverse puzzle Pong kind of thing. And there's a sound for hitting a wall. So I got my assets. I've got my IDE that I'm going to set up very quickly right now. And I've got my T, which means I'm all ready to go. Right. Yeah, let's add a Maven support for this thing. If you're using a different IDE, then the goal for now is just get FXGL in your IDE. Either way, either it's Gradle or Maven or Uberjar is also available if you don't use any of these tools. Just go on this. I don't know if you can see this. I'll just bring it down further. So this is the link and to the main repository, and then you'll be able to see these things where you can click. Right. I'm going to be using Maven because I'm used to it, and there's already a project set up for me in FXGL Maven. I'll just copy and paste the POM. I do need to replace a few things though. Group ID artifact, I'm going to call the game Dodger. Version 01 is fine. FXGL version, the latest one is 0.5.3. And the main class is going to be under Dodger app. And that's all I need to do for the whole packaging system to work after the game is done. So I can easily deploy it if I wanted to. Then I'm going to create the assets directory right under resources. Then I'm going to add textures and then bring these two things under textures. And all of this stuff, by the way, will be uploaded to this repository called Dodger, and I'll give you the link so that you don't need to find assets. You can just download them from here, and these are free to use because I only download stuff that is free to use under a particular license. It's probably public domain. Right, I need sounds in a different. Nope, I need to move sounds to assets. Yeah. And this is where the sound goes. So we got resources, assets, sounds, and textures. If you're not using Maven or Gradle, then your directory structure is going to be slightly different. So you wouldn't have the resources directory, which means assets is going to be right under source. Maven and Gradle do things slightly differently in terms of, well, they both have the resources directory in contrast to a project that doesn't use Maven or Gradle. Right, in main Java, we're going to create a package. You can create your own package. Obviously, I'm just going to use the standard one that I always use. I'm going to increase the font just a little bit, so it's easier for you to see. Should be somewhere here. Let's make it 16 or 18. Yeah, that should be all right. Yeah, the first thing is that. So that's the minimal application that you'll need to run anything that is FXGL based. You need to extend game application, override this, and you're ready to go. Make sure it runs. Yep, that's all we need. Just an empty window. That's it. We've confirmed that everything is set up properly. The FXGL version is 0.5.3. You can update to anything that is greater than this in term, and as long as it's 0.5 point something. And we can go from there. So first thing I'm going to do is create a types. I'm going to create entity types there. This is an enum. Right, so I'm going to have a ball in the game. I have a bird, which is the kind of player thing. And that is it, I think, well, for now anyway. To create entities or game objects, in FXGL we use a factory. And we call it, well, we can call it anything. I'm going to call it Dodger factory and make sure that it implements entity factory. Then I'm going to need a public entity new ball that takes this particular data structure. So the method signature has to be this. Public returns entity, and it has spawn data object that it takes. Spawns, well, this is how the entity factory knows what type of object we're going to spawn, so that we can call this in our game application. No, builder at actually from data, so that I don't have to manually set the at. View from texture. Yeah, let's do bounding blocks as well. It's called ball PNG in here, and that's what's going to be called here. And generate bounding blocks for us. That's what we're asking it to do. Build. That's all I need for now. Let's go into init game. And I'm going to use domain specific language thing, which is a class with static functions. You simply import this DSL-KT, and if you do enter, if you're in IntelliJ, then you can add on-demand static import, which removes the first part of the call. In Eclipse, there must be something that is similar. So I can do stuff like spawn ball at 30:30. No entity factory was added. Oh yeah, by the way, the error reporter thing is kind of pretty cool right now. It catches lots of things, and currently if you read the message, you immediately know what to do. It says call game world add entity factory. So I basically forgot to add the factory. Get game world add entity factory and our Dodger factory, because we need to let FXGL know which class is our factory. So we now have a ball, which is a bit big. I'm going to shrink it. Let's shrink the texture. How big is it? 367. I'm going to shrink it to 40 by 40. That should be okay. Texture and PNG 40 by 40, and we add on demand static import. View from node with bounding blocks, because if you call from texture, then it expects texture name, and if you need to do something with texture like resizing, like what I'm doing with this, then you just call it view from node. Right, so I have a ball. And now I'm going to create something similar. Just copy and paste. For player, replace this with player, replace the method name with something. The method name doesn't really matter. Entities builder from data, from animated texture. Texture name is bird PNG, because the sprite sheet actually has animations. So there are 2 frames in that animation. View from animated texture Next thing is number of frames, I think, and then duration. Let's do duration. 1 second. I don't know. Let's see how this works. Spawn player. Should call it bird rather than player. Yeah, 1 second is probably a bit slow. Let's do half second. Code bird. Yeah, I'll leave the method name and replace this. Let's spawn a bird. That'll fly quicker. Yep, that looks nice. Now I'm going to need first I'm going to create bounding bounding entities around the window so that the ball doesn't go off screen. Let's create actually it's get game world, add entity, entities, make screen bounds. Let's do 40 as the thickness. So this creates a bounding box around the window and with physics components, meaning if we introduce something with a physics component, it won't go off screen. And that's what I'm going to do with our ball. I'm going to add a physics component to it, which means that the ball is now going to be controlled by physics forces, by physics world. I'm going to add the component. Also need to turn on the gravity, or turn off the gravity. I think that should be it. A bit slow, I'm going to increase the velocity, but it should not go off screen. Yeah, and I probably need to increase elasticity of the physics body. Physics set fixture definition. Friction, restitution, I think it's called restitution. Let's do that. And also make it faster. So ideally, it should continue doing that, because it shouldn't be losing speed anymore. Yep, that's fine, and let's make it even faster. I'm going to add another component now to it, create a new one, which will control the velocity. So every few seconds, it will change the velocity of the ball to make it less predictable. Let's create a component called random velocity component or something. For that, I will need a timer, a local timer. No. Yeah, local timer, there we go. If timer elapsed, say 2 seconds, then do something and update timer. Okay, I also need access to the physics component. The great thing about this is I don't need to initialize this. If I add this after the physics one, then it's going to be initialized or injected by FXGL. So I should, in theory, be able to do this. Linear velocity FXGL math random .2d multiply by 250, I think we said 350. Okay. And at some point we need to extract these magic numbers, so it's easier to change the settings. With physics, with this new random velocity component, yep, I think that's it. Let's see. So every 2 seconds, it should be changing its velocity at random. I think it does. Yeah. So it's less predictable now. And what we'll try and do, have 4 birds that are controlled by the same set of input, but with slight kind of twist to each bird, and we'll try to avoid this wall, which goes crazy right now. And if at least one bird is hit, then we lose a point or we lose a life. So we've spawned the wall, we now need to spawn fur birds. All at random locations. So we'll do X between will that work? And Y is between 400 and 600. Well, 600 minus the height of the bird, which is 60. Right, I need more tea. I'll be right back. Okay, refueled. Now we can continue. X, Y, bird. Yeah, that's fine. And what we're going to do now is add some kind of... So what do these birds do? They don't move, right? Yeah, just there. Let's spread them out a bit. That's X multiplied by 200 or 150. I lost 150. Let's try this. That's slightly better. What's the maximum? So 4 multiplied by 150 is what, 600? And then 150, 750. Oh yeah, it's kind of what we have. Our width is 800. Okay, so we need to be able to move these things. For that, we need some kind of component. Bird component. Let's create directions first. I'm going to call direction enum, up, down, left, right, and each of these things is going to have field, which is a vector, point 2D. Up is 0, -1. Down is 0, 1. Left is -1, 0. And this field entity refers to the entity this component is added to. Oh, I haven't set the type yet. Let's do that. Entity type bird. Well, right, so we've spawned our birds, and on input, we want to be able to do something. On key, yes, just on key code. A left will do something, and this on key comes from this static import DSL. So in fact, most of these things come from there. In case you can't find from imports, you will need to import that. So when we do this, we need to get all the birds and call different move directions. Let's have a function here which gives me a different direction. Next. We return direction values ordinal +1. So if it's 0, this gives me that, and if it's that, which is 3, it should give me up, which means if it's 3, if ordinal is 3, return up. And for the rest of these things, that should work. So get game world, query all birds. That's get entities by type. Well, there's more than one way of doing this. You can either get by component, bird component, or get by type. For each bird, I'm going to obtain component. Move direction right. How we're going to do this, because if I try to access a field that is outside, it has to be effectively final within the lambda, which means I won't be able to change it. Because what I want to do is move the first bird to the left, second one kind of left dot next, which means I need a for loop, kind of the traditional one, or at least that's what comes to mind. For each entity, in this list, do that. No, that's direction, and then direction is reassigned to this. Yep, that'll work. In fact, I probably will need to extract this into a function, because otherwise there will be a lot of repetition. With this, it becomes that. And the rest of the code is the same, which means we can extract it. I'll call it input for now. I'll move. And we take the original direction. This is so we can replace this. We can also reassign this if we want to, but the IDE will start complaining. I can do that. Yeah, I guess just let it do it. It's not even complaining now, which should be, because that's not a very good practice to override this field or this variable. Okay, so I can do this now. Move direction right. Does that work the way I think it works? Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's going to be really difficult to get used to, especially for beginner players. Okay, so the thing we need to do now is to make sure that they are always on the screen, the birds, which means I can, well, there's a component for that. and which is called keep on screen component, I think. Keep on screen component. Yep, it is. Was it take 2 billions horizontally and vertically? Yep, both should be true. This is not a very good practice, by the way. If you can avoid passing billions into constructors and into places where it's not immediate from the context, or even without the context. So, for example, here, by just reading the code, I have no idea what these 2 billions do. If it was something like set visible, and then you pass billion, then it makes sense, because you either set visible true or false. But from this, it should ideally be keep on screen component, which takes an enum, which says something like orientation horizontal, vertical, or both. Right, I forgot to add the bounding box. Hitbox, bounding box, new hitbox. What is the size of the bird? It's 140 by 60, which means half of that is 70 by 60. So it should work now. Yep. It looks so cool for some reason. I don't know why. Or is it just me? The animation should look a lot smoother because it's recording at 60 FPS. Well, it should be recording. I don't know if my integrated HD card can do that. We'll see. So we need some kind of condition on losing. We need collidable components. So we need these things to be collidable with each other. They do have bounding boxes, but they don't know that they can collide with each other. And so we do just that. So here true kind of makes sense. Collidable true, collidable false. But here it's definitely has got to go. Right, I have added these things, collidables, which means I can now add my collision handler. Nope, collision handler. And what I need is collision begin. Collision handler between the bird and ball, which means this is a bird and this is a ball. These are passed in the same order. These are defined. Okay, so what do we want to do? Let's have lives, I suppose. So init game variables lives 3, and then when collision begin happens, we're going to do something with it. And then kind of reset the game, or reset the reset entities so that they're there. The ball should really be spawned somewhere at the center. $30 is actually fine. On collision begin, increase or kind of lives by -1. clear entities, and can I call this? Removes all entities, does not clear states. Do not call this method manually. Okay, in which case I'm going to query all entities, get entities copy. It should be something like that. Get entities copy. Yep, there is. For each entity, remove from world. That kills all of the entities that are in the game. Now I can reset entities. So I'm going to call it respawn entities. Where did my ball go? Oh, it also killed the screen bounce. Okay. I also should be printing lives so that I know how much lives we got. How many lives we got. Print line, no. Oh, it's S out. Get integer lives. Yeah, so it's printing lives. Why don't we make the background black instead? So it's get game scene, set background color to black. Looks a bit weird, but kind of getting a hang of it, I think. Maybe, I don't know. Right, we need to print lives to the UI rather than here. So, where's our UI stuff? Game and physics. Add UI node, actually add text. 10 variable name lives. So that directly goes from this variable. And it binds to it as well. So whenever the value changes, it gets updated automatically. Let's do 20. So we got lives. Set font UI factory new font 18. Is it big enough? That was probably 18 anyway. Let's do 26. And we need to add listener to lives, so that's if Get game state, add listener for lives. It's an integer listener. Or where do I put it? Here. Previous now. If now is 0, then game over. We say get display show just message box saying game over. And we exit when the user finishes, when the user clicks OK. Actually, why don't we make it confirmation boxes so that game over, continue. If yes, start new game, else exit. Whoa, I got too close. Game over, continue, yes. And we restart the game, which is nice. And I suppose we need a score. I also have not used the sound hit wall. Well, I suppose when the thing hits us, we could play the sound, which is here. So just as simple as play, hit, wall, the WAV. Score, we need to add another one of these UI text score. And score is increased every, well, let's do every frame, I guess. Increase score by +1. Yeah, I think the strategy is going to be to get all the birds in one place and kind of be able to control them like this kind of thing. So they occupy less space on the on screen. Oh, it's gone beyond. Okay. Because I was wondering why it's so slow. Yeah, just do this. Ideally, we could say kind of bind the size so that it's always on the screen. Why don't I do it right now? Yeah, that looks normal because that's 60 times a single second. That's why it's going at that speed. Okay, move. continue. No. Right. So what we got the score. Does it play sounds? Oh, I've muted speakers. Okay. Let's see this. It plays sounds. Yeah, it does. I don't know if the sounds are recording. If they are, you'll hear them. If not, you can just play them for yourself when you complete this project. Right, so I've got we've got sounds, we've got textures, so it's it's fuller than an actual game demo. And as one of the last things, I guess, well, there are two things. I'm going to add something like particle effect, I guess. Let's do that, and then finally I'll do packaging, and so we can get a single executable jar file. Right, what can we do with particles? Because I already did fireball following the ball in Pong, and in Breakout I did something similar. We do have particle explosion, but not sure where to apply. I guess I could make this, and so it makes screen bounce. This is an entity essentially, right? Which means I can add type to it. Entity type, ball, bird, screen. So I can do something interesting with it. Set type, let's see, type screen. Make that collidable too. Add component, new collidable component, true. Which means I can now do that bit. Collision between entity particle emitter. New implosion, fire, rain. Let's do explosion. Entity. So this is the entity that represents the emitter, or the particle effect. I'm going to add particle component to it with this emitter. And I think I can just do this. Set position, screen, no, where the ball is. Get, let's do center. How about that? Continue, yes. That's weird, it only occurs in certain places. The collision began between ball and screen. Right, let's see, perhaps on hitbox trigger, because that will be called before the collision begin thing. Yeah, I don't know, I need to look into it. For some reason it only triggers from the right. Don't know why. Yeah, I guess I could still incorporate this somewhere. Let's move this to random velocity component, rename this to ball component and make it slightly more complex. So whenever it changes velocity, it also fires off this explosion, which I will need to remove from the world. Nope, FXGL get game world. This is there so that it gets removed after 1 second. Just after explosion, we don't need that entity. So every time it changes its velocity, it will fire this explosion thing. It's software generated particles, so it doesn't look as cool as an actual explosion texture sprite sheet. But at least there's some indication of that it has changed velocity. You might then want to kind of recolor these birds. Actually, I'll do it now as one last thing, and then I'll be done. Spawn bird Nope, or is it the factory episode? That's animated texture, which is animated from a particular texture. Right. Yeah, it's going to be slightly more difficult than I thought. Texture. Bird PNG. Multiply color. FXGL math random color. That's that. So this will recolor the texture. Then we need to somehow. So this is the entity, which I'm going to return. But before doing that, I can't do that anymore. I have to bird get view component set. False, is it? Again, with these billions, need to get rid of them. So this is how I convert to an animated texture. Need to clean up some of the API. Set animated texture loop true, remove false. So it's this. Is it this? Okay. So now what we should have, every bird is going to have its own color. Yep. And maybe you're able to kind of remember which controls are applied to which bird. So when I press left, and this kind of third bird goes up, and right moves it down. Then you also got to take into account other birds. Anyway, so that's what we've done for the game. I'll upload it as soon as the video is done. Finally, if you are using Maven, then you can just do Maven clean package. If it all goes well, then you will have in your target directory .jar01.jar, which you should be able to run by just double clicking on it. And you can obviously get the kind of share the jar file with your friends, so they'll be able to run this game. So it's very easy to package it. And that was the kind of the takeaway message. And in Gradle, you should be able to do something similar. Check out the Gradle build repo. And in the same way, all you need to do for Android is just add Gradle build from the FXGL mobile directory. And then by just doing Gradle Android, you'll be able to compile it to Android APK. And there are also instructions for how to get it on iOS on that directory, on that repository as well. I'll create all the links and leave them in the video description. Okay, so we've done this game. I've told you about the community tab. And I think that is it. Thanks for watching.